Springfield Armory sent us their new model 2020 Waypoint bolt action rifle, and since this is a hunting rifle, we knew that we had to take this on a hunt, and since it's deer season, we figured we'd go on a whitetail hunt, so we called Brad Gannaway at Pro Outfitters in Rulo, Nebraska to set us up with a hunt. But obviously, before we could take the Waypoint on a hunt, we had to get a feel for the rifle and we had to get it sighted in.
We have got the Waypoint 2020 zeroed now at 100 yards. We use some 120 grain ELD match from Hornady, and it shot very well. Easily meets the expectation that Springfield has put out there of the .75 MOA. Dude, this rifle is a hunter's delight. It is super light. Before I put the scope on there, literally the rifle and my optic are about the same weight. Man, what's not to like? You've got a great carbon fiber stock, you've got an M16 extractor, you got a fluted bolt, good Picatinny rail system, magazine fed, a Trigger Tech trigger, butter smooth, mild recoil given the lightweight component of this rifle. You would expect to get beat up a little bit, but the brake is really effective doing its job. I am very pleased at what this rifle is going to be capable of. I'm excited to put down a Missouri whitetail with it, and so I guess stick with us and hope that the sun, moon, and stars align and we bring that good deer into view.
Once we got the rifle sighted in, Grant and I headed north up to Rulo, Nebraska to the Pro Outfitters Lodge for our whitetail hunt. The Pro Outfitters Lodge sits over on the Nebraska side of the state line, right on the Missouri River. The river runs right through the backyard of the lodge. Rulo, Nebraska is an open farm country with high winds. And as you look around, there's not many signs of human activity, aside from a part of a couple farmers who own the majority of the land. Having low human activity like this makes for a great place for some deer hunting. As we looked around the lodge, it was hard not to get excited as we looked at all the massive deer that were hanging on the walls that Brad himself has gotten on hunts in the Rulo area. With all those monster deer hanging on the wall, plus having a guide like Brad who's been doing this for 20 years, I knew that this hunt was going to be a slam dunk. We only had about a 36-hour window to get these hunts in as deer season was coming to a close, so on our first night, Grant and Brad sat down to come up with a game plan for the next morning.
Okay, so here's the scenario. Option one would be that we'd park at the bottom, we'd walk up to the top of the hill, and there's a ground blind right up in that corner that's facing straight into, it's basically facing straight north, so the wind is blowing back into, this is like a big hayfield back up in here. Yeah. So that's probably more than likely where we'll go. This is one of our farms here. Now this will be a little bit different if we can get more of a southwest wind. So this is a ground blind set up here and a southwest wind. Now this can be fun on a couple levels because we've been seeing a bunch of coyotes. So this could very quickly turn in from a deer hunt to a coyote hunt. There's a giant 10-point that is in there, and we've hunted him. One of our guides and clients saw him, I think it was on Saturday or Sunday, just booking it across the field, and then we had a good encounter with him up there. Yeah, chasing a girl. So it would be pretty fitting that if we killed it, just because everybody kind of is the mystique and everybody's kind of heard and talked about this deer.
So let me kind of show you what we're going to be shooting from Springfield here. This is their new 2020 Waypoint rifle. This particular one is in 6.5 Creedmoor. They make it in 6 Creedmoor, 308, 6.5 PRC, which is a fairly new cartridge for the Precision Rifle Series guys. Haven't got to put lots and lots of rounds through it, but so far it has shot really well. I would say save a couple groups in there that were right at that 3/4 MOA. Most of the groups have been half minute or under. All the way out to 405 yards is all I've gotten to take it out to so far. So it's shot really well. It has some great features that typically I don't see in stock rifles. Fluted bolts, you know, an oversized bolt knob. I love that. You know, it's got a nice smooth action, easy bolt release. Trigger Tech trigger, which Trigger Tech is one of those hot new trigger components or triggers options that are out there that you know, the trigger is surprisingly heavier than what it feels. To me, coming from a sniper world, you don't want an uber light trigger.
Yeah.
You want to be able to feel it when your hands are frozen. This trigger breaks like a 2-pound trigger, but when I put it on the trigger pull gauge, it averaged about 3.5 to 3 3/4 pounds.
Wow.
But it breaks so clean. You know, this is the first Trigger Tech trigger that I've actually messed with. I've just heard of them through reputation, and Springfield did a good job, I think, in choosing it. You start looking at what else could you do to this thing if you were a buyer and you wanted to make it something custom. There isn't much left to be done, if anything.
That morning hunt, I was looking for something that we were kind of close to the bedding area. South wind works really well there. It's kind of blowing back across our face into a cut cornfield. We had a creek bottom there with a little bit of cover. This time of year, the deer, because it's rifle season, we're actually kind of getting to the back side of the rifle season. There's not a whole lot of deer activity of deer moving in the open fields. They've kind of figured out with pressure they can slip around through the creek bottoms and not get noticed. So we had the blind kind of turned, angled, overlooking the creek bottom below us, and then we could also shoot the back side of the field. Didn't see a whole lot of movement early. The wind picked up real early. The temperatures was already in the 60s once we got out there.
We did see some coyotes though that came right by our blind, but we didn't take a shot and we held off and waited for that perfect deer to step out. Unfortunately, we didn't see one though, so we decided to sit at a new spot that evening. When we went out that evening, it was 77 degrees, and so the deer movement was at a bare minimum. We did see one doe at this location though, but she was over in the next field, and we couldn't get a clean shot through the timber. We did see a deer out at this location during these high temperatures, and so we figured that must be a good sign, and the weather outlook for in the morning was supposed to be 40 degrees and no wind, and a farmer was cutting corn in the field over. It had all the makings for a great morning and a final hunt.
We had a really good setup tonight, kind of back in the bottom of a pinch point, cut cornfield on both sides, and then it kind of bottlenecked down between two fields, a logging road. Wind finally died down about 5 o'clock. It's been in the 70s, south wind. Wind pretty much has dropped to nothing. Had one doe come in, kind of give us a slip. Grant was trying to get on it, but we just couldn't get on the same page. But as you can hear, they're cutting corn on the other side of the ridge, which is going to be a good thing. So we're going to slip in here in the morning. Hopefully them cutting the corn will push the deer back up on this big thicket back here in the morning. Got a north wind, 45 degrees. Last day magic. Hopefully we make everything come together. Can't wait. Stay tuned.
As we were driving on our way to the deer stand that morning, we saw 2 bucks cross the road, and it definitely looked like it was going to be the day that made everything happen. We sat for a couple hours and saw 5 more doe, but they were all over in the field across from us, and we couldn't get a clean shot.
This morning was crystal clear and just not a breath of wind, and it was pretty early that we saw some good deer movement. Just couldn't quite get everything, put together, and that's part of hunting. And you add the element of a camera and 3 guys in a blind, it does kind of make things a little bit more complicated. I think one of the big misconceptions when you hunt with an outfitter is it's like a slam dunk. Like it's not high fence too. Everything is fair chase, so that adds that whole other element of just like hunting at home. We tell guys that the bonus that we have here is that we know the land very well and the terrain, have a good idea of where the transition points, bedding are, feeding, travel corridor for the animals.
So, Brad, I really appreciate you guys letting us in here. I know this isn't your normal thing to go towards the latter half of deer season, and we came to you short notice and all. But man, it's been even though the deer, really the weather didn't cooperate with us in this 36-hour time frame that we had to push this through. Man, it's a highlight. I'm feeling really blessed to been here and just to hang out in the lodge and see kind of the history of pro outfitters and see the success that you guys have had over the years. It makes me feel like I'm in a special place, and so like I said, I feel really blessed.
In most cases on a project like this, I would normally be upset when we went out there and we weren't able to get a deer. But if I looked at what got us out there, honestly, it was a great trip. Springfield Armory sent us their brand new model 2020 Waypoint, and we were able to go on a pro-guided hunt with someone who's one of the best in the business. It's definitely something that I never thought I would be able to do, and I'm super thankful to Springfield Armory for sending us this rifle as quick as they did, and for Brad and the staff at Pro Outfitters for taking us out on a hunt and showing us a great time at the lodge. One of the biggest highlights of the trip was every night we were at the lodge, the Waypoint 2020 was literally the centerpiece on the dinner table. It definitely generated buzz and was the talk of the lodge while we were there. The Model 2020 Waypoint is an awesome rifle that's packed with features of a custom rifle, and I have a feeling that in the hunting world you're going to hear more and more about the Waypoint 2020.